Okay, looks like we are live and we'll give a 1 minute.
Yeah, let's wait for the clock to tick.
Yep.
What, 10 a.m. on your side?
10 a.m. It's morning. Yeah. And I think 8:39. 8:30, right? At your end.
It's yes, 8:30 here. People getting into Monday moods now.
Monday moods. Hopefully they'll find it exciting. RAR. Okay,
Yeah,
what are these guys talking about?
and-
Interesting topic. We'll make it interesting for them. Okay. 10 o'clock here, top of the hour. Let's get started.
all right, sounds good. So, welcome everyone. This is Shantanu here. Again, good morning, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you are joining. Uh, as I mentioned, my name is Shantanu. I'm a founder at 1.618 Business Consulting. In my current capacity as the founder and principal consultant, I deal with companies, SMBs, and MNCs in work with them, help them to develop their broad strategic frameworks, and also then help them execute their business plans. I have about 20 plus years of experience working across automation and industrial B2B companies. And today, I'm again joined by Aniket Waghchaure. Aniket, maybe you can also
Yep.
kick off with your introduction. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Shantanu. Glad to be with you on this stage. Hello, everyone. Good morning and good evening, whichever part you are in. I'm Aniket Waghchaure. I have 15 plus years experience here in US, specifically in global supply chain as well as robotics automation. Drove some cost-saving project at Amazon where I was there prior to my current job as a senior consultant here. But yeah, I worked on a lot of automation as well as supply chain project while I was there in Amazon. Then also have gotten some Lean Six Sigma operational excellence certification. Uh, Prior to Amazon, I worked in Cummins for 12 years, automotive manufacturing. There also drove some process improvements. So yeah, I'm glad to be here and share my experience and expertise as well as this is an interesting topic that we have today. It's regarding supply chain. So I hope you all find it interesting, and I hope this is relevant. I mean, SMB manufacturers out there. I hope we are talking about your pain points, and you'll go through this and let us know how you like it. So with that, let's get started.
Yeah, and I think it's today we have built this presentation deck, and we want to play devil's advocate here, if I can call that. If you have followed our series of podcasts before this, we have been talking regularly about supply chain issues for small and medium businesses and what they can do to overcome them and really stand out amongst the crowd by successfully implementing all those digitization initiatives, so on and so forth. And we have made a lot of claims before this. We have literally thrown a lot of statistics at you, and today what we are going to do is to look at them really honestly to see if those things like 3 to 5x ROI, the clean timelines, the success metrics, do they really hold water? Are they really true? Or is there a flip side to that? Right, Aniket?
Yep. So
Yeah.
let's look into this slide. We are looking at
Right.
some
So,
claims, right?
correct. So we'll do it. We are going to walk through this deck slide by side, of course, and
Okay.
we're also going to tell you when we think that the numbers are too optimistic, when you should not invest in transformation, um, what actually separates the people who succeed in implementing those transformations and the people who don't. We have made claims like 69% failure rate previously, so we'll look at that.
Hmm.
And as the title here says, the transform or fall behind, which is that's a it's a pretty aggressive title, right,
Yeah.
Aniket? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's fear-based marketing, I think. And you know what? I mean, Some SMBs absolutely should not transform right now. If you are in a
Mm.
survival mode, your cash position is weak, right? So if you don't have executive alignment, transformation will kill you faster than inaction. So, like, keep that in mind, and that's why, we are like sharing all the data with you, just being transparent, but absorb it, and then think through it. And if you have any questions, reach out to us to discuss in
Yeah,
depth about your particular
actually.
situation.
And then maybe the title we tweak it a little, and
Yeah,
say transform when ready or fall
true.
behind eventually. So
Good point. Very good point.
it's less punchy but more honest.
More
So on
honest.
the exec summary slide, I think slide 4,
Yeah,
we claim that SMBs face 8% revenue penalty for inaction, but strategic modernization that delivers about 15 to 25% cost reduction over 18 months, right? So let's counter this claim here. You know,
yeah, please do. Yeah,
the eight yeah, the 8% revenue loss that you see here comes from that particular statistics comes from Netstock 2025 benchmark report. So it's a authentic source, but then it's only measuring companies that have experienced disruptions. It's
correct.
not saying that if you don't transform you lose 8%. It's saying that when disruptions hit, the companies who are not prepared for those disruptions, they lose 8% of revenue.
Right. And here is the question the SMB leaders should ask themselves. What's the probability of major disruptions hitting my specific supply chain in maybe next 12 to 18 months, right? And if you are sourcing commodity components from your domestic suppliers, your risk profile is completely different than if you are importing specialized electronics from a single, maybe a Chinese supplier, or like out of like some other supplier outside your country.
Right, right. So that 8% is really an average across companies who got hit. Of course, every SMB's, every company's situation would differ. In fact, I think we have also discussed this on one of our
Hmm.
previous episodes, that the first thing that you do really is to also look at the long-term trend of your business environment and really see, as you rightly pointed out here, really see what's the likelihood of a major disruption hitting your industry in the next whatever 12 to 24 months. And if you think forward to that point, then work backwards to say what do you need to do today to
True.
be prepared for that. So it's a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that 15 to 25% cost reduction claim, I've seen this, right? But it comes with massive caveats. First, it takes like 18 months. Second, you need to actually execute it well, right? I mean,
Mm.
there is no doubt about it. Execution, is a very important. And third, and this is very, very critical, a lot of savings comes from inventory optimization. So
Mm.
you have to, that means releasing working capital. That's a real money right out there, and but it's a one-time gain, not recurring annual savings.
Right. And again, the paradox box here, it's an interesting statistics as well, because on one hand we have a, claim that 82% IT spending, or IT spending overall has increased 82%, but then you also have 69% failure rate, which is 10 billion plus wasted annually. So on one hand you are pumping in more money, but then on the other hand you're also losing a lot more money. So I think overall, if you see, that's the most important statistics in the whole presentation, and
Very good
we
point.
kind of usually gloss over it or really bury it. We should look at it now as the key to this whole thing.
Yeah, you said it right, Shantanu. I think we should probably lead with 7 out of 10 SMBs who try this fail to get an ROI.
Yeah. So uh, why are we even suggesting this? What makes the 31% different then?
Yeah, so if you look at, right, there are three things based on what I've like seen in my experience at Amazon comments. I think one, the executive commitment, right? Not, yeah, you gotta try this commitment,
Mm.
but I am in the room every week commitment. And the two, they start with data foundation, not
Hmm.
like fancy AI tools. The data is very critical. Data and data quality is very critical. And the third thing is they have clear decision gates where they are willing to
Hmm.
walk away if results aren't materializing.
No, absolutely. And that's the big one because, again, I have seen in my experience with not just the companies that I have worked with, but also partners of those companies who are really in that SMB bracket. This particular aspect of the transformation or any initiative continuing way past its expiry date in a way,
Hmm.
they go way past the point in time where they should have already killed it, not just continue with it because of attached emotions, because of, I don't know, attached
Sunk cost
leadership
fallacy.
pet, yeah, some leadership pet project. There are multiple things that keeps them going at it, even though it's clear, the writing is on the wall that that initiative is failing.
True that. All right, let's look at the slide number 5.
Hmm.
This talks about visibility gap. 87% of SMBs operating without multi-tier supplier visibility.
Hmm.
This stat is real. You can see the source that I mentioned on the slide. It's a real data. But let's be
Hmm.
honest about what it
Yeah.
really means,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So most enterprises don't have a great tier two and three supplier visibility.
Hmm.
Difference is they have teams whose job is to worry about it, right? The real
Hmm.
question for SMB is, do you really need a visibility into tier two and three suppliers, or do you need a better relationship with your tier one supplier who already have that visibility?
No, that's a good way to look at it because um, we have said that you need more visibility, you need better visibility in every aspect of the operations and the supply chain. We have also said that what you cannot manage what you cannot measure, right? So
True.
we have been selling visibility tools, but then sometimes the answer is just better communication with your direct suppliers. At least try to understand that part of the supplier base first.
True. And let me give you an example. I work with a $50 million manufacturer who was about to spend like 200K, 200K on a multi-tier visibility platform. And I just simply asked them, have you called your top five suppliers and asked them about their supplier risk? They haven't.
Hmm.
Two phone calls later, they discovered their main supplier had already qualified backups for critical components. It just
Hmm.
saved them $2,000, 200K dollars, which is
Right.
huge. 200K they would have spent on this multi-tier visibility platform, and if they would not have gotten the buy-in from their immediate supplier, with that money is wasted, right? Without getting a clear communication and trust building within your network.
Absolutely. And I think that calls for a nuanced approach then. It's not
Hmm,
one size fits all.
true.
But then the real question is, when do you really need those formal
Formal visibility.
visibility tools?
Yeah, good question, Shantanu. So I think when you're at scale, right, where manual tracking breaks down, usually north of around $100 million revenue with complex multi-geography supply chains, or
Hmm.
when you are in a heavily regulated industries, when you
Hmm.
need audit trails like pharmaceutical,
Hmm.
um, uh, where this it is very regulated industry, and you gotta have documentation and audit trails for everything. But a
Hmm.
$20 million company with 15 suppliers, is that a worth of cost? I mean, the Excel and relationships would work fine. So that's why you have to look at it into case by case. What is your overall, like, revenue? How much big of a company you are? How much revenue you're making? And what's your supplier base? How many
Yeah.
suppliers you're dealing with? And is that
Yeah.
so look into that cost versus benefit analysis. That's what I call it in simple terms.
Absolutely. And we don't say that usually. Our deck doesn't say it, but it probably should. Yeah.
Correct, correct. So that's where we are trying to make it clear through our
Yeah.
conversation that Yeah, the slide is not clear, but we are trying to sell services, but it should, right?
Yeah, yeah, it should. Let's, you know, honesty is the best policy.
Honesty is the best policy. All right,
All right, slide
let's look into
six.
slide 6. Yeah.
Yeah, the working capital trap. Now, again, the claim that we have made in the past, we also reiterated here is 38% excess inventory while experiencing stockouts. A 250K problem per 1 million dollars of revenue. So, I have seen this pattern, or I've seen this thing really hit companies hard. Right? So, what is it about that?
True, true. When I looked at this data, this is 2025 net stock data. This data is very solid if you look at it. I mean, but if you really dive in deep and look at what this slide does not show, why
Hmm.
companies have 38% excess inventory?
Hmm.
It's not a stupidity. I think this is much more than. Is it? Is it a fear? What do you think, Shantanu? And
Explain. Let's take an example.
yeah.
Let's say I am an SMB leader.
Hmm. And yeah, suppose you are an SMB, right? And lead times from China went from 8 weeks to 16 weeks overnight in 2021 during COVID times, right? Shipping cost like 5x. So you over ordered yourself to protect, like, to your supply chain and to your to protect your order. But now you are
Hmm.
stuck with the inventory you bought at high prices. Then that you can't even move, right? So
Hmm.
meanwhile, the company customer preferences shifted, which we call it as a bullwheel effect.
Hmm.
Um, and you are stocking out new products because your cash is tied up to a old inventory.
Hmm. So, then can I say that it's an optimized? It's not really an optimization problem, but it's more of a
Forecast.
maybe a cash flow or a forecasting problem.
Bingo. Yeah, you're right. Exactly. And that's where I got frustrated with our own presentation when I show this 70,000 to 100K working capital release opportunity. But we don't talk about the pain of getting there, right?
Hmm.
To optimize inventory, you need to liquidate the excess first, right? Often at a loss. You need to improve forecasting, which takes around 6 to 9 months, and you need a supplier flexibility to order more frequently in smaller quantities.
Hmm.
That requires a negotiation leverage most SMBs don't have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, I don't think it's really an SMB only issue. I've seen
Hmm.
this happen in large companies, MNCs
Hmm.
as well. So
Absolutely.
I I do think that again, taking a more nuanced more nuanced view of this, the devil would lie in a different detail. So just on this point, what do you think is a more realistic timeline to capture that 70 to 100K saving?
Hmm. Yeah, if everything goes right, it's 12 to 15 months. And if you hit normal problems, it would be 18 to 12, 24 months. And you'll spend like 30,000 to $50,000 to get there through better processes, some light technology, and possibly consulting help from, experts like us.
Hmm. So if I take a 24-month view, it's probably not 70 to 100K, but more like 20 to 70K, you know,
Exactly.
as a
Correct.
median number, let's say as a median
Correct.
number.
Correct. And which is still worth doing, right? Executives
Hmm.
need realistic expectation. That is the reason why for this slide and these numbers.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay,
Let's move on
great.
to the next slide.
Let's move on to the next one. This is the technology paradox, another claim that we have made. This is really the elephant in the room.
Hmm.
Again, we alluded to that on the exec summary slide. 82% increased IT spend, yet 69% of those companies fail to capture ROI.
Yeah.
What is it
And
about it?
yeah, that this slide also makes me a little bit angry on, because I've been part of this 69% failure rate. My
Hmm.
earlier company, in my earlier early in my career, uh, they bought an AI forecasting tool that promised like 30% accuracy improvement. And you know
Hmm.
what we got?
Nothing.
Worse than
Zero.
nothing.
Is it?
Worse than nothing. We got 15% worse forecast because the tool was not trained on clean data. There was a garbage, like garbage in, garbage out. The data quality was very poor. It took us 18 months and 300k $300k before we admitted failure and went back to Excel.
Okay, great. That must have been fun. But then, what was your biggest learning in that?
Yeah, and that the sequence matters more than the solution. The sequence matters more than solution. That's very important. And our slide
Mhm.
shows two approaches: failed approach and success approach. The successful
Mhm.
approach starts with the data foundation,
Mhm.
absolutely critical. But here is what we don't say: data foundation is boring. It's
Mhm.
3 to 6 months of cleanup work, fixing SKU naming conventions, reconciling inventory counts, standardizing supplier records, all that, right? And there is no ROI
Mhm.
presentation for we spelled our customers names consistently. So data quality plays an important role. Even, I mean, it takes some time, but that improves your results later on.
Yeah, and if the previous slide made you angry because you actually experienced that, this one
Hmm.
makes me a bit, nostalgic in a bad way because I really went through this myself
Oh.
when we were trying to implement an e-commerce project in my one of my previous companies, and
Mhm.
they all had all the fancy
Tools.
dashboards and the tools behind it to implement that e-commerce program, and they just couldn't get the good valuable data out of it because every supplier had, as you have pointed out here, was named in three or four different ways. Sometimes there was a comma missing, there was a full stop missing, there was an
They-
apostrophe missing, or whatever grammatical errors the name had, and that showed up 100,000 plus supplier base when the actual number was only around 30,000, right? So,
Good
but
point, man. That's
uh,
exactly right. That is where the 69% of the SMB fails. They can't get the executive buy-in for the boring foundation work. Foundation work means basically data quality, data,
exactly.
um, collection, making sure the data is right quality before you start
Mm.
processing it. And CEO wants to see AI dashboards, but not the data cleanup spreadsheets.
Right, right. And again, it mentions here that the critical prerequisite is more than 99%
Hmm.
inventory accuracy. That's what is required before you implement any AI forecasting tool.
Hmm.
So if we translate it, um, or put it in a different way, let's say you have 1,000 SKUs and in your inventory counts are off by more than 10 items total, your AI forecasting is going to make bad predictions, right?
Absolutely.
And for most SMBs, they are running, I would say, about 80-85%, at the most 90% inventory accuracy, if we put a generous number behind that. And that gap, if really from 85% to a Six Sigma or a 99.99% achievement or accuracy achievement, is that's massive, and that can actually make or break your program. It requires cycle counting programs,
Correct.
root cause analysis on discrepancies, requires real process discipline, and
True.
over consistently over a period of time. So again, it calls for investment. We are not saying that it will be done easily. It's certainly easier said than done. At least I would say about 10 to 50K worth of investment. But
Hmm.
really, it could be much more than that when you include labor in it.
Yeah, labor is important, man. So should SMBs even attempt AI forecasting? That's the main question,
Mm.
right? And I think not until they are proven they can maintain greater than 99% inventory accuracy for 90 consecutive days.
Mm. Mm.
So
Mm.
basically, running Six Sigma project, I mean, making your inventory accuracy more than 99% for a three
Mm.
month. And if you can't do that, AI will amplify your garbage data problems.
Mm.
That's absolutely, that's certain. So If you don't have a good data, forget about implementing it. Just don't go for a flashy AI tools or implementing it. Work on your data quality first. Uh, that's
Right.
absolutely critical.
Yeah. So let's spell out those problems
Yeah.
specifically. I think the next couple of a few
Yes.
slides we have listed those problems down. Right?
Yes.
Visibility gaps, single source dependencies. I think working capital traps. We covered that. Technology ROI failures. There
Yes.
are some structural disadvantages in the org structure itself or the structure of the process itself. So, again, hypothetically, if you were advising an SMB CEO who is listening to this, what is the first question that they should ask themselves?
Yeah. My first question would be, which of these problems is actively costing me money this quarter?
Mm,
Not
mm.
theoretically, not in a future disruption scenario. Right now, what is happening right now?
And why would that be the key question?
Yeah. Yeah, because transformation requires sustained effort over 12 to 24 months, 1 to 2 years, right? If you are solving theoretical future problems, you lose momentum when quarterly pressures hit. So, but if you are solving, we expedited $50,000 in freight last month because of poor visibility,
Mm,
that pain keeps you focused.
mm. So maybe they shouldn't transform if they don't have an issue or a pain point on hand.
Correct,
Is
pain.
that what you're saying?
Exactly. And that's where I'm getting at. Like if your supply chain is running fine, you're hitting delivery targets. Your
Hmm.
inventory turns are decent, and you haven't had a major disruption in 3 years. So you
Mm,
might not be ready for transformation, and you're ready for continuous improvement, which is different.
mm. And that's not what we are saying. Yeah.
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 No, it's not. Our presentation says transformation or fall behind. But the honest answer is transform when the pain justifies your investment, or you'll waste money on solutions to problems you don't really have.
Mm. No, that I think makes a lot of sense.
And that's what
And
this slide, yeah.
yeah, again, I think one of the key problems there, something that again we have addressed in every presentation, every podcast before this, is the SMB structural disadvantage. Limited resources, less purchasing leverage, higher per unit costs. Um, of course, there are some advantages as well. You have SMBs do have the kind of agility that larger companies don't have. Right? They are able to focus, bring that focus throughout the organization if they really want to. Proximity to customers, again, acting on a lot of customer feedback, market feedback quickly enough, quick decision making. I think that's what um, is an advantage for them. And innovation, again, it comes from the smallest of nooks and crannies of the organization, but
True.
an SMB has that advantage that they can really take it up from those places and convert it into a product idea quickly enough. Right? So I think the question then is, when do these advantages outweigh the disadvantages?
Yeah. So when you stop trying to compete like a large enterprise, uh, the SMBs I've seen succeed aren't trying to build Amazon supply chain at 100 of a scale, right? They're building supply chains that leverage their agility. So let's say they have like 3 to 5 really strong suppliers relationship instead of 50
Mm,
transactional ones, which does not add value. Why would you focus on those other 50? Why not just have 3 to 5? And they use inventory strategically in just 2 to 3 locations instead of a complex network.
right.
So that's an important decision, right? They make decisions in days, not months. If you have a very concentrated and very localized supply chain than a complex network, your
Mhm.
decisions are faster, your momentum is faster, your supply chain agility is much more
Mm.
robust.
Yeah, and I think the key here is then to identify these advantages or these strengths that you have inherently and work on them rather than be someone else. Again,
True.
uh, everyone says this: be yourself, but it can't be more true in this case, right?
True.
It's not about adding more complexity, it's just about adding the right capabilities and maintaining that simplicity. So when you have to make a choice between, do I work on improving something that I lack, or getting something that I lack, or do I work on strengthening what I already have, I think the choice should be for the latter. Just work on your strengths first, and
Perfectly said.
should solve a lot of your problems.
Yeah, can't agree more, Shantanu. Let's look at slide number 13,
Yeah, so that's a
case
case
study.
study that we have here. I think a company that moved from a single source to a diversified model. The 180K worth of investment that yielded about 550 plus thousand of annual savings with a 4 month payback. Now, that looks good on paper, but was that real?
Yeah, right. There has to be more to it, correct, right?
Yeah, and I have rarely seen this. Again, in all my experience, there are case studies, of course, that have some good, happy ending kind of numbers, which sound very unrealistic, very filmy, as they call it here. But then they do work, and what we really need to see is what made that work when most of the others, 69%, as we are saying, fail.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, and fine. And three things that aren't in the slide, right? One, the CEO had
mm,
already decided to diversify before we showed up.
mm,
We helped execute a decision they already made, and we didn't convince anyone. And the second one, two, they had a VP of operation who had done supplier qualification at a previous company, and internal expertise we leverage. And the third
mm,
thing, $550,000 annual saving includes 200K from one-time contract
mm,
renegotiation that won't repeat.
mm. Okay, so if you really take out the outliers,
Hmm.
then the annual average saving could be in the
Closer
range
to.
of 300, 350K, right?
Yeah, yeah, you're right, and yes, and still a great ROI, right, on a $180,000, but not
Mhm.
the like 3x it appears, but still a good ROI.
So, what would be the flip side to this? What would have made this not work?
Not prevented, yeah, this from working. I think if the CEO had been lukewarm, if they hadn't had a internal engineering capability to qualify new
Mhm.
suppliers, or if the market had shifted and made those alternative suppliers uncompetitive,
Mm.
that would have made. But we got lucky on timing, right? Started the qualification process 6 months before tariffs. Tariffs hit their primary supplier region, right?
Right, right, right. Yeah. So, if you were to boil it down to three things, one is executive commitment, internal capabilities
Capability.
being right, and then favorable timing. Just be at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, and to be honest, we can help with the first two, the commitment and the internal capability, but we can't control the third, the timing, because no one can control. But the first two,
Now, as the,
commitment and the internal capability, we are here to support.
yeah, and as the classical philosophy goes, control the controllables. Know what
True,
the controllables are, control them, and for the unknowns, just be prepared for various scenarios that they could take.
true, true. All right, let's look at
Very
the
good.
40 slide.
Yeah, closing on time. So that's our implementation roadmap. First 90 days for foundation and some quick wins. I think that's very important. Once you have confidence in that duration, then 6 to 18 months worth of deployment, scaling, and building up of that competitive advantage. And let's do a reality check on these timelines. Right. So.
True. So yeah, the first 90 days slide promises 200K to 500K immediate savings from a supply chain audit. And I think, yeah, I've done that probably 30 of these audits myself, in past companies. So, you know how many delivered 200K plus in 90 days? That's a real result, right? How many, you would ask?
Maybe 10. How many?
Yeah, plus, like around four, maybe five.
Oh,
And the rest took 6 to 9 months to actually capture those savings we just identified.
okay. Okay. So what was the difference in the ones
Yeah,
that
the
failed?
quick wins are real. We can identify them in 30 days, but capturing them requires execution. Uh, Renegotiating contracts, changing processes, retraining your staff. Most SMBs don't have that organizational capacity to execute on
Hmm.
all those 10 initiatives simultaneously while running the business.
Okay. So what were the more realistic ones that you saw happening?
I would say pick your 2 to 3 opportunities that can deliver 100K to 200K in 6 months.
Hmm.
Execute those flawlessly. Really, really hit the nail on there. Use that momentum to fund the next phase. And then companies that try to capture all those saving at once end up with an initiative fatigue and capture nothing.
But then is then that also easier said than done? I think like we are saying here self-funding model. Your savings from the first stage or first phase would help you fund your activities in the next phase.
Hmm.
But does that always happen? Is it real?
Good question. And it's real if, and this is a big if, you have a discipline to actually bank the savings instead of absorbing them into operations. I
Mm.
recommend SMBs set up a separate transformation fund account and literally deposit the documented savings there. Otherwise, the money
Mhm.
disappear into general operations and you can't fund phase two.
That's quite a different approach. I think worth doing for a lot of SMBs. I think that's a key one. Make sure that you know what those real savings are and they are visible in a separate account so that you can really, then also fund the next phase with that. So it's a good suggestion.
Yes, yes,
Right. Let's talk about months 6 to 18. I think deploying core capabilities, scaling,
yes.
building the competitive moat. Um, Again, the language is very confident. We have made a very confident claim: deploy digital twins for end-to-end visibility. But then, what's the reality check?
Yeah, true digital twin costs around 500K to 2 million, right? And requires, I think, data structure most SMBs don't have.
Hmm.
So if you look at the like holistically, what we are actually talking about is a good ERP system with the IoT sensors. I think we covered this topic in the last our podcast, but
Right.
if you have a good ERP system with IoT sensors and some dashboarding, that's really still valuable, I think. And but
Hmm.
it's not a digital twin in the enterprise sense.
Okay. What is it then if it's not that? We are
Yeah,
selling the solution as a digital twin. Are we overselling it then?
no. So we are using that enterprise technology for SMB solutions. The capabilities are real and valuable. But when someone hears digital twin, they think Siemens level sophistication, right? What they are getting is really good visibility into inventory and shipments, which is what they need. But we should call it that.
Mhm. And it's interesting because usually that's the brief that the technology teams get me a Siemens kind of sophisticated
True.
system. And that's just that what they are told. I can relate this to the advertising industry where the briefs that the advertising companies get are just insane, unrealistic. Sounds like that. But then another one here, what about competitors are 18 to 24 months behind already? That's what we are saying. You can claim, an SMB can claim at the end of 1.5 years. Again, is
True.
is that true?
Yeah, and that's one actually true if you execute well, right? Supply chain capabilities compound. If you spend around 18 months building better forecasting, supply relationship, and inventory optimization, while your competitors do nothing, they can catch up in 6 months. They need to put in the same 18 to 24 months you did, and that's where you get
But
an
then
advantage there, right?
when you're assuming that they are doing nothing,
Correct. And
obviously
if
that won't be the
if
case.
everyone's transforming, you are just keeping pace, not pulling ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to keep one eye corner of your eye on what your competitors are also doing.
100%, 100%.
Uh, Okay, investments and returns. I think on this slide we talk money. Again, we have mentioned this investment ranges from about 200K to 1.5 million depending on the company size. And the claimed ROI is about 3 to 5x at the end of 18 months, as we said. So, again, what is more realistic here? We have been saying this all along. What do you think is more realistic here?
Yeah, I think the investment ranges are actually pretty accurate here. Maybe add up 20 to 30% buffer for scope creep, which generally happens, right? Scope creeps
Mhm.
and implementation delays. You can't avoid that. I mean, yes, you can do some risk assessment, risk mitigations, but still there are certain things that is unavoidable. And if you add a 20 to 30% buffer, I think that covers that. So ROI is where I get concerned
And why is that?
because we are claiming 3 to 5x ROI at 18 months, but earlier we said 69% of transformation failed to capture that
Mm.
ROI, right? So which is it? The
Yeah.
answer is 31% who succeed see 3 to 5x return, 69% who fail see 0x return or negative return, I would say.
Hmm. Okay, so you either win big or lose big. It's kind of a bimodal
True,
distribution.
exactly. And that's why the decision gates we mentioned are very, very critical. At month
Hmm.
6, if you are not seeing 1.2 to 1.5x return, something is badly wrong. So don't invest more hoping it will get better. That's throwing good money after bad.
Yeah, and you need to be dispassionate about it at some point.
Yeah.
Remove your emotions from that. Again, eh, it's easier said than done, but that's what you have to do. Again, here what our slide shows is value creation sources, inventory optimization, 30 to 35%, 35 to 40%, supplier cost reduction about 25 to 30%. Again, are these percentages real?
Yeah, they are real for successful implementation. But here is a catch. Disruption avoidance 20 to 25% of a value that is invisible until a disruption happens. So in the first 18 months, if no major disruption occurs, you'll only see around 75 to 80% of the projected value. Executives get a lot of time impatient, right?
But then, it's a bit tricky. How do you communicate an ROI for disruptions that did not happen?
Yeah, and that's a huge challenge, right? And the best approach to document near misses, uh, times when you had a supply risk but mitigate it through the better visibility or a diversified supplier. But yes, it does require a discipline to track those.
Mm. But then, what should be my ROI expectations if I'm an SMB owner?
Good question. I would say expect around 1.5 to 2 times ROI in 18 months on the actual investment, not the 3 to 5x we are claiming. Because if you get like about 2x, you are in the top quartile of a implementation. So if you hit 3 times uh, 3x, you either executed brilliantly or you got lucky with some major description you successfully avoided.
Hmm.
Both matter, but you should know the difference.
Yeah, I think the serendipity prayer. You can go
True.
and read about that, but that becomes important here. All right, I think we are running on short on time, but let's hit the last two slides quickly. I think this one shows the maturity paths from being reactive to building and then on to scaling. And I think the next one is the 30-day action plan. So between these two, what's the most important thing an SMB should do before committing to any of this? What do you think, Aniket?
Yeah, I would say honest self-assessment on two dimensions, capacity and your pain, right? Capacity means do we have internal people who can dedicate 20 to 30% of their time to
Mm-hmm.
this project for 18 months? Not
Mm-hmm.
consultants, your own people. If the answer is
Mm-hmm.
no, don't start. You'll just waste money on
Mm-hmm.
this recommendation you can't execute.
I think that's important. Again, the mentality is if I'm hiring consultants for this, I just hand it over to them, and then the teams are not that involved.
Hmm.
So good point here. But then you also mentioned pain. So what is
Yes.
pain in this case?
Yeah. Pain means is our current supply chain costing up at least 200K $1,000 annually in expedited freight, stockouts, excess inventory, or disruption freight firefighting? Uh, if the answer is no, if no, then you're probably fine with continuous improvement rather than transformation.
Yeah. So the first thing to do when you are sitting down to create this plan is, in fact, to ask, do I really need to do this? Should
Hmm.
we even do this? Right.
Yes, and
So
here's the question. I think if we do nothing for the next 12 months, what's our
mm,
downside, right?
mm,
If the answer is we are
right.
fine, just not optimal, don't transform. If the answer is we are at serious competitive risk or burning cash, then yes, do move forward with this transformation.
Mm. Yeah, I think that opportunity cost needs to be taken into account. What if
Right.
I don't do this? What's the flip side to that? Right, great. Okay, and the deck says 80% of companies completing first 30 days proceed to the full program. So that's a fairly high number. Again, on one hand, we are saying that 80% do progress, but then 69% fail. So somewhere that black hole exists between progressing to a very mature state and then eventually failing. So why is that?
Yeah, actually, no, it should be more like 50 to 60%. If 80% are proceeding, it means we are not being selective enough in the initial assessment.
Mhm, mhm.
So some of those companies shouldn't be transforming, and they are they are going to end up in the 69% failure bucket.
Yeah, and try telling that to an SMB. You shouldn't transform. But then I think that's the bitter pill to swallow. Swallow. It's not merely transforming for the sake of transforming. It's the setting the expectations right on the right kind of transformations. Right. That's what we
True.
are trying to say here. We are not just
And
sending more transformations. We are sending the right transformations.
sell the right transfer. You said it right. Exactly. And that's why our reputation depends on client success, not client volume.
Mm.
I'd rather
Mm.
do 10 transformation with 8 successes than 30 transformation with 10 successes, right?
Well said. Well said. Yeah. Great. I think we are at time. In fact, overshot a bit, but really interesting conversations. I think let's summarize this, what we have learned so far, by critiquing some of our own assumptions or claims that we have made in the past or even in this one, right? So the stats are real. That's for sure. They come from authentic sources, but that's not the whole story. That's not the full picture. The devil lies in the details. The all the averages that you see here, they have massive variations. The specific situation that you are in matters more than these industry benchmarks. So although they are good signposts, good milestones to look at, don't just rely or go by them. Think about your own situation and then develop the plan accordingly. The second one, the 69% failure rate, again, probably the most important number in the deck. Um, it's not there to dishearten you, it's really there to tell you what the other 31% are doing right. Right? And what we saw was three things again: executive commitment, internal capability, and realistic expectations on the ROI timings, on the payback timings, etc. The third one, I think, would be data. Again, a boring task, but it's absolutely critical to get your data foundation right. Don't just buy AI tools for the sake of buying them or because everyone else is doing that. Make sure that your data quality is good, and only then will you put something like an AI forecasting tool on top of that. ROI timelines again are quite optimistic in this case. When you plan for 80 to 24 months to see 1.5 to 2x returns and not 3 to 5x as some of the statistics claim from the industry reports. Again, the last one, I think, what we just spoke about, not every SMB should transform. I think the if your current pain, look at your current pain points where you are, your situation. If it is really causing you somewhere around less than 200k annually, again an average number, but you should really look at it from your own top line, bottom line perspective. But if that's what you see, roughly about 200k annual impact, you lack internal capacity, or um, you don't have the kind of internal muscle to work on that problem, then think of it from a continuous improvement initiative instead.
Well said. And then here's my final thought, right? The supply chain is a means to an end, not the end itself, right? It's a mean to an end, not the end itself. So your goal is to serve customers profitably, bottom
Hmm.
line, right? And if your current supply chain does that even inefficiently, you might not need a complete transformation. But if your supply chain is preventing growth, causing your customers dissatisfaction, disruptions, burning cash, then it's a time to act.
Hmm. And if I can quote the great Bhagavad Gita, this is exactly what is Nishkam Karma Yoga. With you set the realistic expectations, go and honest self assessment, and but be ready to walk away from the results if the results are not materializing. That's what you need to keep at the back of your mind.
Awesome. Exactly. All right, we are top of the hour. Thanks everyone for listening. Again,
Yes.
you can find our contact details. I will be sharing the slides through our LinkedIn. Do watch our podcast. Shantanu will be sharing the YouTube link because the slides does not tell the whole story. Do watch our reasoning, our how we went through our rationale, because that gives a more insights, and I hope both hope that it provides you a good rationale in your decision. And in case if you have a complex case you would like us to study, please contact us. Yeah, our details are there. Shantanu, you want to say something?
Yeah, no, please do reach out. Again, not just because we are trying to sell our services, or we want to sell you something, but really, you would have seen this. It's a quest for knowledge. It's a quest for trying to understand uh, the variety of issues that you as SMBs would be facing, and whatever experience and knowledge and things that we have seen in our combined experiences, we would just like to share that. Also like to hear from you, or from that perspective. So uh, feel free to drop a comment, reach out to us on our credentials mentioned here, and let's take it from there.
Awesome. All right, thanks everyone, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
yeah, have a great week
Have a good
ahead.
day, everyone. Thank you.